back to the Starlink matter. Government wants to open Wi-Fi hotspots all around the country. That's an expensive process. Starlink is in the air and it beams through and everybody's connected fast speed at a cheap price. Why is the government not engaging Elon Musk, a South African, on making sure that young people have internet in the schools, in the universities? They can able to have internet outside of load shedding. What we see a very corrupt government. South Africa loses 300 billion per year to corruption only. 300 billion every single year goes to corruption. We've got South Africans that want to develop and do great things in this country. They are stopped because politicians want to coup.
When are you reversing this unlawful gazette? Who pressured you to do this? You are under oath. Who pressured you? Who instructed you to do this? Because you seem like an intelligent man. Maybe in the words of Rupert, you seem like a changed man. Who is pressuring you to do this? Tell us who in your department, the departments that you oversee, advised you to do this gazette, because we want to know them. Because those are the incompetent people that after we release you, we need to go after them as well. Finally, again, Mr. Minister, when can we expect your resignation letter? I thank you.
Starlink, it's coming. Are you happy? Are you not scared? Is the rumor of them mining data from us that may be used against us anything to be scared of?
I must be honest, I have not put my head around the Starlink. I hear the rumors. I know Elon Musk himself. I've read an article saying they have not formally applied to have Starlink in South Africa.
Mashiane Politically Incorrect, Starlink. So I went out to speak to people to understand if they understand. I don't understand myself what Starlink is all about, but we read a lot about Starlink in terms of the media, what it does, what it fears to do. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to attach other people's narratives. Yes, they are not expert, because the experts are not talking. But I'm going to include at the end so you get a free view of what Starlink is. And of course, what I've done is the little that I've read, I did not only go to the public to talk to people if they understood what Starlink is. I mean, even the ANC guy told me he doesn't understand Starlink, but they are glad to make Starlink work. So, of course, we remember when Donald Trump and his the orange guy and the white guy could not get what they want with Zelensky. They threatened to close it. So people are fearing that. So I'm going to give you my own perspective and then you will listen to the others. Of course, let me start with what Ntlabulongela has said, because I was speaking with someone. I said, Eskom se push. So if, not Eskom se push. Eskom se push is that app that tells you the load shedding stuff. This one is ICASA se push. So ICASA is our authority that deals with, it's a regulatory authority that deals with telecommunications and stuff. So this company called, I'm going to include their stuff here while I'm speaking so you could see Starlink offers the mini one and the other one. And I'm going to limit the stuff to the technical. I don't want to talk a lot of technical, but I'll just include it here so you could understand why is it flying. Why are the satellites flying this low instead of others are flying too high? I don't want to go to those logistics, but here's, by intents and purposes, this is what I believe is going to happen. In its format, Starlink, there's no need for us to want Starlink because they want it saying it's free internet. Okay, that's how they frame it. It's free or cheap internet. It will help people, rural schools, stuff. I say no. So what we benchmark from other countries is you are buying that hardware at about 7,000 rands. So I did the poll. I did the poll a few days ago just so people could check. And most people that I did a poll with on YouTube, they don't like Starlink because of its cost. And they are saying, if it's coming there with those prices, then it's not going to fly. And I agree with them. If Starlink is coming to South Africa at those costs, then it's not an alternative. I'm battling with Vuma, yeah, Rupert myself. I'm battling with it, and I do it for business, but I'm still struggling with it. I spoke a lot in the past about data must fall, and I said, if data falls, it will open a market and introduce a whole lot of people into this digital economy. Those who are in control of the economy do not want independent free players. They are making sure that they delay this thing. That's why they are in this space. This is my conspiracy theory, by the way. So let's talk about that 7,000 that you pay for. You pay the 7,000 for the hardware, and then per month you pay around 1,500. So this is what the neighboring countries are paying. You just convert those numbers. This is what the journalists who were investigating this had found out. So it's 1,500 per month if you are buying it. But what ICASA push once, they are selling those gadgets at around 17,000 rands, and then you don't have to, you're not worried about the monthly paying because they've got a way. And of course, there's a way what other countries are doing is you buy that gadget, and then you say, because it's available in a country in Europe, let's just say Britain, because it's in Britain, you are buying it as someone who's a Brit or who lives in Britain. And then you come and use it in your own home country as roaming, because I mean, apparently, maybe, I'm not sure, it doesn't charge you any difference like our cellular network. So you just use it as roaming because they will see where you are. But then, because regulatory bodies in other countries, they decided to go against it. So they said, okay, no, it's fine. What you then must do is every 90 days, you go back to that country and connect there, and then you come back. So imagine giving someone those gadgets to go back and do it. Like I said, everything I'm speaking under correction, this is what I've read and listened to. So those technicalities is what I think will make this, then the government making an excuse of bringing it here because it's going to be cheaper, it's going to connect rural communities, hospitals, and police stations in Limpopo to be connected. Then that excuse falls off because then we can see that it's expensive. Even these ones, ICASA push who are operating here in South Africa without the minister's knowledge or purported minister's knowledge, it still becomes very expensive for them. You understand? So that we are packing away that thing of affordability. It's not affordable. It's way more expensive because with fiber, you don't even pay the connection. You don't even pay the hardware. They just take it per month, and it's around 400 rands. Those are the minimums, 400 rand. So when we compare those prices, there's no excuse for bringing it here because you are saying it's cheap. Then I go to the next level. The next level that I want to push for you is to say, I do not believe internet service providers in South Africa will survive if Elon Musk, why do I keep calling it Starlink comes to South Africa? Because what they will then do, because they've got the muscle to do it, they will drop those prices so low that it will, for other startups, it will be futile to continue surviving. So in 5, 7 years time, 10 years time, only the few managed service providers will still be in existence. Then he would have monopolized. He's around, I mean, he's got many satellites, and he will double them in that time of 7 years, because that guy launches every day. So he would have doubled those guys. So it will be even more, the latency, the connectivity, the speeds. It's going to be so ridiculous that no one can compete with him. And this is where the gambit is. We speak about Jacob Zuma being a chess player. This one is a ruthless capitalism. Then what they will do is, because all our institutions, we make jokes in South Africa about, we are offline. Now that is going to be a real deal, where the load shedding of this thing is going to come back. Can you imagine if the entire thing is connected on them? Those who are lucky, they will have to keep theirs alive. By the way, Elon Musk is not the only provider of internet from satellite. It is just he's the most cost effective. Maybe if we compare him and widespread and well marketed, and this latency, because he's flying very low, it makes it very easy for him to outperform others who are, I don't know how many times above the earth they are, so they can't compete. All of those, like I said, technically speaking, under correction. But the gambit that I'm talking about is when he kicks out everyone, then we are now at his mercy. He's going to Zelensky us, and this is where we fear it the most. You asked me, and I'm replying. I'm saying, if we did not fear Elon, Starlink is the best thing we need because of the technology. But you know those movies where the good guy is trying to save planet Earth, and there's this big, in every superhero movie, there's this villain who laughs, ha, 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 ha. That is Donald Trump for you. And Elon Musk. The two vices of the world, because this is what is going to happen if these guys bring this thing here. This is what people fear, and I join them in that fear. But the technicalities, it makes sense why he would be good. But then the excuse is not going to be there because we're looking at the price. But being that as it may, I want you to listen to the other people who have spoken on this. I'm going to take various people for you to listen to them, whether it's an expert, whether it's, and I said they are not experts. Of course they are. I tell you every time, I do not want to have people on my podcast who I agree with only. No. So I'm going to give you a lot of people who are going to explain their part in this thing. Mashiane Politicallyincorrect, Etada, sure.
Roof, Keurboomstrand, very overcast. Overcast day today.
3, 2, 1.
La hopola video ele ya 11 lapo at I take your wife, I put knife here, I say for example ubona madi arka, I never wampa. Now totally unrelated, Minister ya rona ya Communications and Digital Technology Abuti Soli Malatsi ukata usaina directive ya policy ya When hona le requirement mo ering, ha company ya tla mo Mzansi e tlo etsa business le rona 30% ownership ya yona tlamele ibe reserved for batho ba batsho ba mo South Africa. So amendment ba batla ho relaxa that requirement hore bare or equivalents ka bo job creation, procurement be batho ba batsho bonto tse jwalo. So mo president wa rona ntate Cyril Ramaphosa na bale ko Oval Office le ntate Donald Trump mo presidente wa America. Ene la tseba hore yena le ntate Elon Musk helemos as brass. Ene ntate Musk recently olaba abua mo are hey wa tseba ke batla go tlisa Starlink ye ya ka mo South Africa Mzansi ene ba batle ke kena bane nna ha ke motho o motho. Starlink ke satellite internet e onwang ke ntate Musk and ola ya mole ko Lesotho are ye ere ke kupa o kena mona kupa o kena ka ba ai mfetho ai manje makancane ntate Trump ke 50% tariff. Are shebisisa handle taba e ya directive e qetang ho saenwa nna bothata ba teng ke hore if re relaxa legislation ya rona for ownership and control hore re end equivalent ke bona nkare re compromises hane re compromises ka the definition ya black people for Employment Equity Act le yona act enze re bua ka yona ene re bona hore mara happen to mo tlameleng re consider ke national security ya rona ha re utlo hore moketho o reng yena ka taba e.
Let me explain the real reason we don't want Starlink here. It's not because of BEE. It's about national security. Starlink isn't just an internet service provider. It's a monopoly owned by a billionaire from the United States of America. If Starlink is allowed into the country without proper regulation, it will destroy local internet service providers. And once Starlink becomes the only ISP in South Africa, we'll be in serious trouble. Imagine one company, one American company, controlling internet access across our entire country. The next time we say something the US doesn't like, or if we take a political position they don't agree with, such as taking Israel to court for genocide, they will shut down our internet. If you don't believe me, look what happened to Ukraine. They have Starlink, and when negotiations over critical mineral resources were not favoring the Americans, one of the threats that the USA brought to the table was to shut down Ukraine's internet access. If you hate Eskom's load shedding, imagine if we had an internet blackout every time Elon Musk throws a tantrum. So ask yourself this: why would any responsible government hand over the nation's internet access to a foreign private company? No country which is serious about its future would ever do something like that. BEE compliance is just an excuse. The real reason we don't want Starlink here is because we actually want to remain a sovereign country. So no, it's not about protecting corrupt government officials or blocking competition. It's about not being stupid enough to give the US government a kill switch to our digital economy.
On totally unrelated news, did you guys hear how the Kid Cudi Didi ineling kareke Marvel super
Starlink likelihood of success in South Africa will be challenged by the amount that you need to be paying. As we speak, you and I, it is estimated around 7,000 to buy the hardware, with the satellites and stuff, receivers and stuff, and around 1,500. This is benchmarking from other countries, neighboring countries. This is way bigger and in amount, almost 3 times to 4 times the amount that you will pay for Vuma, yeah, Rupert, by the way. So it seems the idea of bringing it or it will cater the rural and poor communities at its current form may not be feasible. Are you still interested in it, or are we going to see a situation where the government of South Africa, led by the African National Congress, end up subsidizing something that we don't even like?
Well, I'm still in the middle of doing my research in as far as that is concerned. But what I will do for you, which is a bonus, while we're busy with these by-elections, we will bring the Deputy Minister of Communications, Ntate Mondli Gungubele, who will be better placed to give you that narrative in as far as the business of Starlink is concerned.
Is he deployed here?
we will bring him. I see it's one of your interested issues. We'll make sure that we bring him and he will give you the nuts and bolts around that particular issue.
Thank you very much. You've assessed the site, so you have. So one of the things Ramaphosa was saying he was not going to be bullied on. Ke taba ya go tlisha internet ya Elon Musk in South Africa. Ba e bitsa gore ke Sky Starlink.
Yeah.
That Starlink, it's about 7,000. We thoma we reka ba tšea equipment, then per month we ka patela around 1,500. All of them ke di estimates because I saw it officially ra bona. So go ya ka wena go lebeletse, is it too much gore e mo South Africa because South Africa re a tlhoka, or tše di leng gona le tsona di a re faila? O nagana eng? O nagana is a good initiative because now as we speak ba nyako mo fa chance gore a itlishe ntwela ba reng ke Starlink. O nagana eng ka yona?
Starlink nka se comment because as far as it operates comparing to Tsamogae, I get no idea, so I cannot comment on something that I don't have a full idea on.
Okay.
So Elon Musk tweeted this the other day, and this tweet has me so hot because the fake victimhood and the wanting to be oppressed so bad is so triggering. And I want to make it very clear that the reason that Starlink does not operate in South Africa has nothing to do with the fact that Elon Musk is white, and everything to do with the fact that he refuses to comply with the Black economic empowerment laws. Now, in case you didn't know South Africa's history, here's a little breakdown. South Africa has been colonized since 1652. And during this period, the Dutch and the British went back and forth fighting different wars over land and control of South Africa. During this colonial period, the indigenous Black people of South Africa were stripped of their land, their rights, political rights, economic rights, all of that. And then fast forward to 1948, when the white minority government, the National Party, took over South Africa and implemented what we know as apartheid. Now, the apartheid government implemented laws that literally divided South Africa along racial lines, with white people at the top and Black people at the very bottom. Apartheid laws systematically took away land, economic power, political power, social power, everything from Black South Africans. And what you have now is that white people make up 8% of South Africa, but hold the majority of the land and the economic power. So when apartheid ended 30 years ago, this is not old history, this is recent history. 30 years ago, I am 30 years old. The year that I was born was the year that apartheid ended. When apartheid ended, the new government had to implement laws and mechanisms to try and rewrite the injustices of the past and try to uplift Black South African people and create a more equitable and equal society. One of those ways that they're trying to do that is through Black economic empowerment laws. Black economic empowerment, or BEE laws, are in place to ensure that Black South Africans can have an opportunity to participate in the economy. Starlink does not operate in South Africa because Elon Musk refuses to comply with these laws. Now, in South Africa, for Starlink to operate, they need a license. In order to get this license, one of the requirements is that 30% of the company needs to be owned by Black South Africans. This is a part of the BEE initiatives. Now, this rule is implemented and imposed on all companies that wish to participate in the South African economy. This has nothing to do with Elon Musk being white. If Starlink was owned by a Black American or a Chinese person, they would still need to comply with these laws. And literally, all other multinational technology companies have managed to comply with these laws, because what most of them do is they enter into strategic partnerships or joint ventures with local South African companies. So for example, Amazon Web Services partnered with local data center providers in South Africa who comply with BEE in order for it to participate in the South African market. Microsoft has done the same. They partnered with the South African telecommunications company Vodacom that complies with BEE standards. Now, Starlink has not agreed to do any of this, despite the fact that most major tech companies do operate in South Africa. So the reason why Starlink is not in South Africa has nothing to do with the fact that Elon Musk is white, and everything to do with the fact that he refuses to comply with laws that are in place to uplift marginalized groups. Now, there are a lot of valid criticisms about BEE, with a lot of people arguing, rightly so, that these laws have created kind of a minority black elite. And we can talk about that in another video.
Oh, hey, government, we help you and you help us.
And they have the racism too.
Yeah, and I think, for instance, when you talk about ideologies, if you look at Elon's plight against South Africa, again, I'm not sure this is perfect, but I saw it start when he wasn't able to launch Starlink in South Africa, because in South Africa, the government says they want to make sure that you have minority ownership when you launch a company. And the reason the government did this, and they haven't done it perfectly, by the way, I'm never going to say it's the poster child, but what they were trying to do is they were going, guys, we've learned that money gets closed off. So if we don't make sure that companies have representation in terms of who owns the companies, the money's never going to go anywhere.
And when you say minority ownership, South Africa's a black majority.
Yes. So no, what I mean is now what we say minority here. So I'm saying black, people of color. Yeah, people of color.
So that explains the anti-DEI thing he has.
Exactly.
He's just like, the plane crash.
Elon, I think they went, you're not going to let me open this. And not only did they not let him, they then banned Starlink. And then now Starlink, you can't use it inside, even though it's a satellite thing, they don't enable it in South Africa. And I think Elon now again he was like, I'm going to find a way to break this system. And one thing I've heard about Elon from everyone who's worked in and around his orbit is he is supremely talented at finding the right lever to pull, and he will pull it. It doesn't matter what he's trying to do, but Elon will go, that's the lever. I need to get people working harder. That's the lever. Yeah. I need to get these people doing this. That's the lever. To start businesses that break things and don't follow the rules. What do you need? You need the people who make the rules to lose some of their power. What's the best way to get those people to lose some of their power? You find the people who are the least happy. You find the people who have the most hate fomenting. And you encourage that and you grow it and you nestle. And so essentially, I love that you said it in the beginning with Peter Thiel. These guys are essentially investing in disruptors all around the world.
They're very opportunistic.
They're seed funding everywhere. They're using the same principles of money. They go, Christiana, tell me about your movement. You believe that governments shouldn't exist?
You're giving me an idea now.
You know what? This sounds like a good company. Yeah, they go, this is a great company.
Let's talk Starlink. Yes, the technology from Elon Musk. President Ramaphosa went to the United States and wanted to bring this technology in as a goodwill gesture for the negotiations with the United States. People have often complained, including Elon Musk, that he wasn't allowed to operate it because of all the BEE rules. No. Guys, come on. Who do you think stands to lose the most if Starlink comes to South Africa? Who do you think? Do you think it's the BEE rules? You think it's the government that's preventing? Just take one wild guess. Who stands to lose the most? Technology that provides data anywhere in South Africa? Broadband access through satellite? Data? Is it ringing a bell? Who stands to lose? It's the network operators, of course. They're the ones who are going to lose out. Big time. So they're the ones who've been lobbying government and using the BEE rules to prevent them from coming. It's not the government. If you have an issue, take it up with the network operators. Ask Vodacom and MTN. Why? Because they are going to lose a lot of money if Starlink or any of that type of technology comes here. The network operators in South Africa have held us hostage with exorbitant fees. They charge so much money. We pay so much more for data compared to any other developing nation. They make immense profit. So they stand to lose a lot. They're the ones that need to be regulated. They're the ones who need to be stopped. They're the ones who are preventing Starlink, and I hope you get that.
Starlink issue, was it part of our discussions? No. What we were able, and this is part of the offer or the package that we're talking about, is creating an environment for investments to take place. What do we want? We want US companies to come and invest in South Africa. That is a real deal for us. We want foreign direct investment. And to do that, we've got to create a conducive environment for FDI, for foreign direct investment. And where, for instance, in the past, we've been able to do so and attract US companies and utilize equity equivalents, and US companies have embraced that. That shows that they are willing to go along with our regulatory framework, which we have crafted to attract investors to South Africa. And many other countries utilize a variety of ways to do that. I know, for instance, I was reading that when Tesla wanted to build a gigafactory, car manufacturing factory in China, they were required to have Chinese partners. And they had a negotiation with the Chinese government, and in the end, they dispensed with that regulatory compliance and allowed Tesla to invest directly as a sole company in building a giga car manufacturing facility in China. So what did the Chinese do? They crafted their own regulatory framework, and they were able to come up with a creative way of enabling an investment to take place. Because one, they wanted to bring in an investor, two, create jobs in China and all that. So similarly with us, there's nothing wrong with South Africa to have in the past crafted an equity equivalence provision that has allowed many companies, Amazon, Microsoft, Google, you name them, they have utilized that same type of dispensation. And in doing so, we want to see how best we can attract further investors in South Africa and be able to get a regulatory framework that can allow them to come and invest. And where, for instance, our regulations may be a bit inconsistent with our great intention, we look at them. And somebody asked a question about Minister of Communications. Yeah, that's you, yes. He's going to be able, in analyzing the regulations of the Communications Act, to see how best we will be able to make them consistent with what we have done in other sectors. And that falls within the realm of creating that conducive environment for us to attract investors to come into South Africa without violating our own rules and regulations, our laws, but it's part of the regulatory process to make sure that we are an investable country where companies from outside South Africa can come and invest.
I don't talk that much about Starlink, but essentially it's intended to provide low latency, high bandwidth internet connectivity throughout the world. That actually will not be enough cognitive processing power on board the satellite system to in any way be a Skynet thing. Like digital AI requires a lot of super intelligence, requires a lot of big servers on the ground. It's too power intensive. But this is intended to provide people with who don't have any internet connectivity with internet connectivity, and for giving people in cities a choice of, low-cost choice of internet access. But I do think it's going to be important. The Starlink system will be important in providing the funding necessary for SpaceX to develop interplanetary spacecraft, and at the same time, helping people who have either no or super expensive connectivity and giving people in urban areas more of a competitive choice.
Good morning, Chairperson and colleagues. Good morning, Minister. Minister, does it not bother you that this will lead to endless legal battles? Because I can assure you that as the EFF we are going to challenge this unconstitutional proposal, not only in Parliament, but we'll make sure that we explore all legal mechanisms, because we are not about to accept a situation where our laws are rewritten in Washington. I'm wondering, Minister, if it really does not bother you that you are setting a wrong precedence of bending backwards when you are being bullied, because we can't, like we've said with my colleagues, that this is about Starlink, this is about Washington. So now we have a bunch of bullies bullying you, and you are bending backwards for them. And then you make it seem like this has been in process. I don't think this has been in process, because I think if that was the case, this committee would be aware that this has been in process. But like my colleagues have been saying, that this is an issue we heard about in the media. I'm wondering if maybe it doesn't bother you that you're making us look weak, that when racists are throwing toys, right, and are hating on black people in our country, and you are giving them what they want. Because this started when the government of this country signed an act, the Land Expropriation Act, into a bill, and they started spreading these lies and disinformation about us.
Starlink is a major security and economic risk to countries because, one, it has the potential to become a monopoly. And two, in the event where it does become a monopoly, it then has the potential to become an economic and political risk to countries. So in the event where certain countries decide that they do not want to comply to certain demands from the US, they can just shut down the internet, because Starlink is directly linked to the US military. If you look at the incident that happened in Ukraine, where there was negotiations around minerals, one of the threats that was made by the US was that they were going to shut down the internet. No privately owned company should have so much control over a country's ISP. It makes no sense. It has security risk to the country, economic and political risk, and to give that amount of power to a US-owned company, no.
What exactly is Starlink? I mean, you hear it's really revolutionized the way we access the internet, but could you easily explain it or understand how it works? Unlike traditional internet, which relies on ground-based infrastructure like fiber optic cables and cell towers, Starlink satellites form a mesh network in space, communicating with each other using lasers and with ground stations and radio waves. But here's the thing, when you use Starlink, your special dish antenna tracks these fast-moving satellites, automatically switching connections as they move overhead. And this setup is groundbreaking because it can provide high-speed internet almost anywhere on Earth, even in remote areas where laying cables is impractical or maybe not financially feasible. The low orbit of the satellites significantly reduces travel time. But it brings up a question, then why don't we all just use Starlink? It's important to note that Starlink does come with really high costs, which is why we don't use it everywhere. Additionally, each satellite has limited capacity, leading to slower speeds in areas with many users. But I mean, despite these limitations, Starlink really has changed the way that we can access the internet.
And you're wondering why we don't have Starlink yet, even though it's available in other countries. Everyone online is saying it's because of BEE, and that the government is so corrupt that they won't allow us to have fast and affordable internet unless they can get a piece of the pie. Let me explain the real reason we don't want Starlink here. It's not because of BEE. It's about national security. Starlink isn't just an internet service provider. It's a monopoly owned by a billionaire from the United States of America. If Starlink is allowed into the country without proper regulation, it'll destroy local internet service providers. And once Starlink becomes the only ISP in South Africa, we'll be in serious trouble. Imagine one company, one American company, controlling internet access across our entire country. The next time we say something the US doesn't like, or if we take a political position they don't agree with, such as taking Israel to court for genocide. They will shut down our internet. If you don't believe me, look what happened to Ukraine. They have Starlink, and when negotiations over critical mineral resources were not favoring the Americans, one of the threats that the USA brought to the table was to shut down Ukraine's internet access. If you hate Eskom's load shedding, imagine if we had an internet blackout every time Elon Musk throws a tantrum. So ask yourself this: why would any responsible government hand over the nation's internet access to a foreign private company? No country which is serious about its future would ever do something like that. BEE compliance is just an excuse. The real reason we don't want Starlink here is because we actually want to remain a sovereign country. So no, it's not about protecting corrupt government officials or blocking competition. It's about not being stupid enough to give the US government a kill switch to our digital economy.
Guys, can we please talk about the story? So President Ramaphosa has rejected a deal to bring Elon Musk's Starlink internet to South Africa. This decision comes after a public bet between Ramaphosa and Musk, with the president accusing Musk of having unprogressive and racist view. So guys, Starlink is a company which is owned by Elon Musk, one of Elon Musk's company. Elon Musk was born in South Africa, then moved to America. So he came back to the country, telling the president, I want to bring my internet here. The deal was supposed to go through until Elon Musk made remarks about the government, the South African government, on how they are treating certain individuals differently. So the government took those remarks as undermining the president. So the president was like, no, we don't need your investment anymore. If that's how you view the South African government, then you can keep your investment to yourself. Guys, both of these guys, they are South Africans. Whatever is going on, whatever happened, they need to sit down and resolve this. At the end, we need to develop our country. We need revenue in our country. We need unemployment to drop. If the president decides to reject this deal, then he must come up with a better plan to cut unemployment. The youth are sitting at home. Elon Musk had plans to bring Tesla to South Africa. He wanted to build charging stations because Tesla, guys, they don't use fuel. You charge these cars. So he wanted to bring this investment going forward. But the pride of the South African government was like, no, if you're going to disrespect us like that, then you can keep your investment to yourself. So guys, unemployment, it's bad. I don't think there's anyone who's sitting at home who's happy. So with Elon Musk bringing these companies to South Africa, a lot of lives will change. A lot of family will have food on the table. We need to come up with a solution. Fighting is not a way forward. We need a solution. So all the best. I hope at the end, South Africa will benefit from everything. Thank you.
Chairperson, let me start by saying that this matter has indeed gained a great amount of attention of South Africans and I think internationally. Largely because, Chairperson, this concerns the wealth of the land of South Africans. The Freedom Charter says very clearly that the people shall own the wealth of this land. An alternative equivalent to ownership speaks exactly against that principle, as Honorable Matafa has mentioned in our statement of intent, to which the Honorable Minister and his party are signatories to, that one of the goals is to promote social justice and equity in our land. And I think that is the cutting edge, that is the sore point, and we must not be naive to lose that point. As in my short stint as acting chair, I was challenged, the democracy of this country was challenged, and I stood by it. I will not be naive in this house to say that we cannot talk about this. So as a caucus of the ANC caucus in this portfolio committee, we were asked, and I whipped the ANC study group. I was asked for a public statement. I did not. We waited until yesterday until the leadership of the African National Congress had met, and I got a briefing. I wanted to know very clearly, was any deal cut in America by the leadership? And I've got a clear-cut clarity from the African National Congress that there was no deal cut clearing the path for any Starlink regulations, as the public is calling it. So very, very clear, the African National Congress is clear. Our laws are sacrosanct. There is no backdoor to gaining entry. Anyone wanting to gain entry into this country, especially into the ICT sector, which is a sector that is most disadvantaged, as Honorable Matafa said, perhaps the most, must come to the front door. There is a 30% that is in place. So I would really, I'd like to ask the Honorable Minister, because we must not be naive to avoid the politics. The party that he represents, that is the Democratic Alliance, have they had any conversations with Elon Musk and Starlink, that whilst the minister has gone on pains to indicate that this is not, this is coincidental? I think South Africans need a very clear answer. Kati, that has your party posturing this now manje to solicit and to create the avenue for Starlink to come in? Certainly the African National Congress position remains, as Honorable Matav has indicated, we will not support this policy directive. We will call for its withdrawal. Chairperson, having clearly identified our party position and requesting the Honorable Minister to make known his party positioning, and that there's been no back chat rooms taking place in America last week, I'd really like to ask, the EEIP that the minister is proposing, how does that, what is the history of the EEIPs that have been in place thus far, and how have they benefited the people of our country tangibly, especially in terms of transformative agenda? Chairperson, another area that I wish to raise with the Honorable Chairperson is that he is considering that Section 9(2)(b) of the ECA clearly mandates a 30% HDG ownership for licensing. What is the legal justification for your policy, Mr. Minister, for your policy directive that aims to bypass this requirement, that equivalent programs which fall under a separate legislative framework? Are you not essentially trying to reshape the laws through unilateral action, thereby diminishing the authority of Parliament? Following on to that, what rationale underlies your decision to exempt the ICT sector specifically, whilst other industries such as mining and finance have consistently complied and continue to comply with the 30% HDG ownership requirement? Lastly, Chairperson, as the African National Congress, we continuously emphasize that ownership is a crucial pillar of economic transformation in our country. And how does allowing an organization such as Starlink, and I will bring Starlink and place it at the center of this house, to bypass equity participation align with the national policies aimed at promoting significant black ownership in the economy, particularly, Chairperson, in a critical sector such as telecommunications that has historically marginalized, disadvantaged South Africans? Chairperson, as I pause, may I also express my concern, as I've expressed previously, that the Honorable Minister has consistently surprised South Africans and this committee, such as the withdrawal of the SABC bill. We heard of it in media. Such as the intended CETA regulations, again, we hear of it in the media. Chairperson, I wish to record my concern that we would really like to be taken into confidence by the minister, so that this portfolio committee and the minister can work collaboratively to benefit our countries, rather than using the media as a means through which this portfolio committee is communicated to. Thank you so much, Chairperson.
Minister, it has been brought to our attention that Starlink is actually operating in South Africa. And that being the case, it's operating illegally in this country. And I'll tell you why. There's an organization, a company called ICASA Sepush. I don't know if you're aware of a company called ICASA Sepush. That company, the landing page states the following. We are dedicated to bringing reliable internet to Africa with sparkling, and we know stars sparkle, technology and commitment to service. We're here to connect you wherever you are in South Africa. Stay connected, stay empowered, and unlock endless opportunity. It is now operating in Mozambique, and it is selling equipment, satellite equipment, for Starlink connectivity. Now, our understanding, and by the way, this company is based in Centurion now. They have actually an office and a physical address. Now, what is also concerning, Minister, if you go to their website, there's a part there that speaks to working strategies to keep Starlink connected in South Africa. It says, despite Starlink not being officially licensed in South Africa, many users remain successfully connected through a combination of proven workarounds and reliable subscription plans. And it then goes on to say, based on our testing and feedback from the community and the strategies below, please find currently the most effective ways to keep your Starlink kit online and functioning without interruption. Now, Minister, this is happening right under your nose. We are busy talking grounds for Starlink. Not even discussed in the first place. The other point, Minister, that I want to raise is that, this reminds me, especially if you look at the comments that were made by the owner of Starlink, where he said he will switch off Starlink, this was for Ukraine, and it will end all the fronts of communication for the army. Now, if we give that kind of a person powers to connect our people, that alone is a huge risk for this country, because the sovereignty and the security of this country and the defense thereof will be in the hands of one person who can at a whim decide to switch off this country's communications. And as you know, if you go to war, maybe you don't know, there are three things you focus on. You switch off the water, you switch off electricity, and importantly, you switch off communication. Now, you want to give that kind of a person that's operating illegally in the country that kind of power? The other point is then takes me back to Radio RSG, which I see our members from the SAPC are. Radio Sandergrense. 1937 it was founded. And that was exactly that, a radio without borders. And was used by the apartheid government, by the way, to communicate. By the way, that radio station is the only radio station in the country where you can actually connect anywhere without any interruption of frequency. What I'm seeing here is this Starlink supposedly for farmers being another radio sondergrenze of apartheid model which can be used and to achieve certain agendas. As you know, we have issues of racism and the issues of farmers that have been raised in this country. What I'm seeing here is another radio sondergrenze of apartheid regime, which is going to be used for whatever purposes that they want to use it for, which we know will not be in the favor of this country. So, Minister, what are you going to do about that? How can...
Thank you.
Many people believe that we went to Washington to discuss Starlink. That is not so. The issue of Starlink never even came up in the discussions that we had in the White House with President Trump, notwithstanding the fact that Elon Musk was there as part of the US delegation. So it wasn't discussed. The process of having low orbit satellites providing Wi-Fi and internet connectivity is known in South Africa. We've been through that. And there are quite a number of other companies, Chinese companies, European companies, and Russian companies, and many others, and local companies who are interested in getting into that space. So people tend to focus on one company only, and yet we've got a plethora of companies that would want to get into this space. So the environment to enhance or enable investment to happen in that space is precisely what needs to be properly crafted, properly permitted to enable that to happen. So the process that the minister has unleashed is a process that is going to elicit a lot of comment from the public, from various key stakeholders, including current role players in the sector. So that in itself is going to exhibit the true democratic process in our country, that when something new, something that is topical or even desirable has to be flighted or implemented or initiated, it's got to be supported by a lot of discussion.
Bafethu nizongicorrect uma ngi-wrong. Kune-information engisanda kuyithola la ukuthi le mpi le yokusayinwa komhlaba eliwe yilo baba lo indirect kahle kahle yena ulwa enye impi yakhe benobhululu wakhe lwala eSouth Africa u-Elon Musk. Uzokhumbula ukuthi uRamaphosa oke waba nomhlangano nobhululu kaTrump lo kuthiwa wala eSouth Africa kodwa ungasazi nanokuthi siyini. Kahle kahle umsusu wothuthuva yona ke le network company ekuthiwa iStarlink efast kakhulu ekuthiwa bafuna ukuyiletha la eAfrica and akuvunyelwana kahle kahle nepercentage le South Africa. And kuyistyle sabo ke America ukuthi mawukuthi mhlawumbe anizwani kahle mase bekufaka unswinyo mase beyakuninda ngento abangakuninda ngayo njengoba bethi nje racist le South Africa. And kuthi iAfriforum ayifuni lonto leyo isithe nje yona iyayiqhelelanisa nayo ngoba unswinyo olufaka uTrump lilimaza yona ngoba iyona invest kakhulu. So njengoba befaka unswinyo nje iyona limala iAfriforum. So iyayiqhelelanisa naleyo nto. Angazi ukuthi kuyiqiniso kangakanani bafethu lokho engikukhulumayo. Ngicela ukuthi onolwazi ake asichushise.